Your work always tells a story. Let's have a close look.
Hello and welcome. I am Daniel Westbay, one of your lovely hosts for Close Look Productions, and I am joined by a very special person.
Yza de Burbure, bonjour.
Wow. And we're not doing this in French, but I just wanted to get the gears thing going. Yza, you're a very special guest. You're the first guest that I have that's overseas. Can you tell the folks a little bit about yourself and where you are right now, like living wise and in life?
Oh my God, life. Where to start? We'll start from now. Hi, I'm right now here in Belgium in my lovely house. And so just to put Belgium on a map, it's really so extremely small that it is like squeezed between France and the Netherlands, and with Germany on the east side. And we are kind of the middle of Europe as well, with our capital, which is Brussels. And I'm living like south of Brussels. I am a hypnotherapist. I'm also known as a child whisperer. Now, what is a child whisperer, would you ask? A child whisperer is someone who can kind of talk with such a way that it will imply to little humans alive, which are children, as we call them, but it can also apply to the child within ourselves that we were like a long time before and that we might have forgotten sometimes. So I like to say that I am a mediator between the child and the parent.
Wow.
In short.
So you have... you said hypno something?
Hypnotherapist.
I did not know that. Every time I talk to Yza, folks, I learn something new every time. She is a remarkable person. She has traveled all over the world. As far as I know it's only certain countries, but it feels like it's all over the world. Yza, let's go back to your roots though. Where did you start? Where did Yza start? Like, family-wise, you know? Your parents, where did you all start?
Yeah, my parents. So as you know, Belgium is kind of split in two parts, right? We have this Flemish-speaking part and the French-speaking part. Even if I'm living in the French-speaking part now, I was born in the Flemish parts up north. My father... What was my father doing? He was an insurance broker, but actually what he would have loved to be is a marine guy who would have gone on those commercial boats that would go from port to port, and that was like his way of wanting to see the whole world. But he met my mother, and he was quite handsome when he was young. And so he met my mother, they fell in love, and she got pregnant. So his father told him that, hey, guy, your traveling things, it's over. You come and work with me into the insurance. So that's how he ended up. And my mom is this lovely person who loves children very, very much. So she wanted a lot of babies, which my father didn't want to have a lot of babies. And I am the fourth of four children in the family. I'm the youngest, and I have one sister and two brothers, and they're like 9, 7, and 5 years older than I am. So even if I'm out of this family of four children, I'm still the youngest one, and I've always felt that I was kind of the lonely child, right?
So Yza, you say 4 people in your family. How does it feel to be the youngest? Was there more pressure on you to think outside of the box, or go with the grain?
It's only recently that I understood that I am this hypersensitive person, and with an idea of being able to understand a lot of things at the same time. So what I was very good at is to see how my brothers and sister were doing and were acting with my mother and father, and knowing, okay, I shouldn't be doing this. I should more be like this, because then my father and my mother are happy and they're not going to yell or scream at me or be mad with me. So I was kind of observing what they were doing, so that I was always the nice and the quiet and the good one, right? Which they didn't like, because they thought that I was like being the good one, where they were the. So they think I was a, how do you say, like when they're giving too much, when you're giving too much to a child, when you're like the king
Attention.
of the attention. I got too much attention from my mother, and they really hated that. So, but actually, what they don't understand is, because they were much older than I am. When I was 10 years old, my sister was 20. She left the house already. And my two other brothers, they were kind of in boarding school. So I was alone at home.
Oh, wow.
And I was staying alone with my parents that were fighting all the time. And I was in the middle of that. And that was really hard growing up in a family where people are yelling at each other all the time like that. That was really hard. And that is something my brothers and sister had much less than what I've had, because I stayed longer with my parents at home.
So what is it that you did to, because it is a lot for a child to take in, to hear all that all the time. So what kind of escape did you do to kind of drown out the noise a little bit? If you could think back that far, that's far. So.
It's okay. I think I have this really incredible imagination. So when I was very little, like between 5 and 10 years old, I would go in the garden. I would go in the forest, and I would make tree houses, and I would imagine all kinds of stories that would happen. And I would take my bike, would go to my friends. So I had a lot of ways, because we were much more free as a young person about 4 decades ago than we are now, right? Now, if you want to take a bike, you need a helmet, you need the pads, you need the helmet. I mean, you're almost like a
hockey player.
You're almost like a hockey player to go for biking, right? Where we would just take our bike and we would go. So I was very free to come and go as I pleased. So I left the house a lot, and I did a lot of sports, which brought me to other not very nice experiences as well. But yeah, that's what I did.
So we go back to the imagination, and I think that kind of segues well into how I met you. So I met you in a challenge, of course, going live and whatever, or in that group. But what intrigued me the most is how you've pivoted in this whole pandemic thing. You read books you read children books. Sorry, specify. You read children books to kids in the area via Zoom or Skype, whatever it may be. You do that online to them, but not just in a book reading way. You kind of make it interesting, and you do you do voices, and you're very animated, and that's what caught my eye. I was like, this. So how did you end up reading books for kids online? What made you go in that direction?
Well, it very specifically confinement with this beautiful COVID-19 thing that we've all experienced so far. And I am someone, I can't just sit at home and not doing anything. I need to be of service. I need to be giving myself to a good cause, to something. And here in our village, because we're living now in a very small village, and the people, we know each other. It's a very friendly village, and we have this WhatsApp group. And I told the people in the group, hey, parents, I know it's going to be very difficult. Your kids are going to be at home. What I can offer to you without being physically close to each other is I could maybe tell stories every day on a Zoom conference gathering. And so we started, and we were like the people from around the village, and we were like 15 kids that were going to listen in to my first Zoom conference storytelling. And that was great, and I was really happy. somebody took this idea and put it on another Facebook page. And the next day, we were like 25 to 30 people that came into the Zoom conference, meaning 30 connections. Mm-hmm. So some families have 2-3 kids. So we had at least 50, 55 children that were listening to my stories. The next day, so we were 3 days into the idea, I had 95 connections. As you know, on Zoom, you can only go to 100. And I was like, whoa, my goodness, what is this? And I keep doing this ever since March 23rd. I read 3 books a day to the kids, and they just love it. And I am so happy to doing this. I get so much energy out of it, because on Zoom you can see all those children, and they're all like that with their big eyes on the screen. Even little ones, 2.5 years old, they don't move for 20 minutes. They're just like, oh, wow. And then you have little messages from the mothers and so forth. No, it's been great. It's been wonderful. I've been getting mails and messages from the mothers saying, thank you, because the kids are going nuts. The kids are going crazy. We parents are going crazy with this confinement. Children are getting really sad. And this little moment, this little capsule in time of 30 minutes of storytelling really gets the energy down for everybody. They settle down. Kids are happy. Parents can do their stuff. And I'm extremely happy of being able to do that for the children. So yeah, it's been fun. So that's how I got into it.
And you just, if you watching at home, that energy that she has just right there while explaining her passion is the type of energy that she puts into reading these books. And if you were anything like me, I was getting goosebumps just watching that energy. It's almost infectious. You have this innate ability, like you said you're a child whisperer, but you have an innate ability to keep that attention on you, and it's amazing. So what were you doing prior to reading books then? Is this something you've always wanted to do, or?
Actually, the idea of helping children in one way or the other has been there from the beginning. As I started learning some skills at school, I went to early childhood educator, and I really loved it. That's where storytelling kind of set the little seeds were sown into my mind that, yeah, I'm good with storytelling and so forth. I went on doing nursing degree as well, because I thought early childhood educator, that's all okay, but I'm not going to do that for 50 years. That's like boring.
Fair.
So I need to do something else. So I did nursing, and then I left. I went to Canada. I came and lived in Vancouver for 3 years. And I did all kinds of things in Vancouver, being assistant, bartender, did all kinds of things, worked for big companies that were handling those machines for diabetes and things like that, for not mentioning any names.
Thank you.
Worked in an embassy.
Oh, wow.
As well. And then I came back to Belgium, because I had encountered a big bad wolf in Vancouver who wasn't very nice with me. So I took my child with me, because this big bad wolf had eaten me up. And then, you never know what happens then, but I got pregnant. And so I came back to Belgium. In Belgium, I did many, many other things. I became an actress as well. I set up a festival, a creative festival for 25 artists that were doing dancing, theater, music, movies, photography, performances, all kinds of things like that. And then what did we do? Oh, I have it a little bit wrong in the timing, but that's not a problem. We went to China as well. And in China, I became a Montessori teacher. And as I was a Montessori teacher, I worked in a Chinese-French Montessori school. And there I picked up storytelling time again. And what I did is I told the kids fairy tales. And as the tale was over, I let them play it out. That was fantastic. The energy that came out of the children, and once they went home, people were telling me, wow, my kid is so really much more relaxed and, much more resilient and happy. Mm-hmm. So took that idea, and then I did workshops in generative trance with Stephen Gilligan, and he was in China at that time, so I could take these workshops in China. And then I met him in California as well for 2 workshops, 2 different years. And then as I came back to Belgium, I did another course for conversational hypnotherapy, which is an extension of trance, but we here in Belgium like to call it hypnotherapy. Mm-hmm. And so that's what I ended up doing, is having sessions as a kind of a coach in hypnotherapy, and I would help people to get back on their path and their journey without being held back by what we call neuromuscular blocks, which are probably most traumatic spaces that you've went through, or places that you went through, or traumatic events that you've gone through, which hold you back on your path. And then I help these people to kind of open up, change the image of the traumatic time that you went through, so that you can get back on your path and keep on going.
Wow. So I just want the viewers to show, and the reason why I wanted Yza on the show and why I thought she would be a great fit is that she's done all these things with no fear. You've traveled. I mean, like you said, you've been to China. You said you've been at Vietnam one point. You've been to Canada. You went back to Belgium. Like, don't feel free to like go places and do random things. But like you said, you did follow what you felt you were always going to do. So you still studied within the areas that you thought would be useful for you till the end. I just want to make, that you don't have to do it conventionally. So often that we all fall into these, you must hear it all the time. You fall into these like stigmas where you, or expectations where you have to do this after high school, and you have to do this after high school, and you have to do this and this and this, right? And yeah, so that's why I like your story. You've done it all. Bartender to reading books. I guess they kind of go hand in hand, but I mean,
depending how you see it.
Yeah.
But yes,
who you remind me of? It just popped into my head now, and I don't know if you're familiar with this, and it's okay if you're not, but Mr. Rogers.
Yes.
And Mr. Dress Up. I mean, Mr. Dress Up was more Canadian.
In the neighborhood.
Yeah. But because I just recently watched a movie with Tom Hanks, and his outlook was almost exactly what you said, right? It's like to give your full attention to the kid, to not so much to be like, because the thing is, the show was very melancholy, like it was very soft. There wasn't a lot of things happening, a lot of colors happening, but there were colors. But his voice was so intriguing, and the things, his characters, the puppets and story and all that stuff were so intriguing that it kept the kid in I don't want to say docile state, because that kind of sounds weird.
No, but it gives the child permission to understand what he is feeling, what she is going through, and to experience many new experiences. So like for naming of things and naming of emotions, and like I said, resilience. What do you do when something terrible happens to you? How do you handle that? Do you come back to mommy, or do you stay inside yourself? What I call family storytelling is like parents taking time with their kids. It's physical. It's physical. It's the energy, and you feel the energy from one another. When you watch screens, when you watch TV, when you watch iPads or whatever, then you are sucked into. You are hypnotized.
I didn't want to use the word, but yes.
Yeah, you're hypnotized, but that's what they're doing. It's you're hypnotized, and then there is no feedback. It's like just you're like, and you're taking it in, but there is no coming and going back. It's the difference between going to the movies or going to theater. Your reaction is much different as you go to the movies than as you go to theater.
Very true. I love both mediums, by the way. Me
too.
I love theater.
Me too.
We live in this fantasy world. Where would you go with this if the pandemic ended? Did we?
Well, I would continue telling stories to children, yes, but I would love to give conferences. I would love to bring this to as many parents as I can, to as many educators as I can. And at the same time, I'm also involved into an association, organization. I don't know if you say association in English, organization, who is helping children who have been sexually abused or mistreated, not treated well, traumatized, and so forth. We are putting letter boxes in schools with little butterflies on there. And then we are explaining to the children that they can write little words for us and put it in the letterbox so that we come get the papers, and then we can help those children if they are in need or if they are in some urgency to get help from adult people. So I am going to set this up in Belgium as well, and I would love to travel around and put it in as many places as possible, because the amount of children who are mistreated, sexually abused, or any other conduct like this is terrible.
So I think you're absolutely right, and that's a great cause. So you would stick with your story. You have a YouTube page where you can check.
Yes,
yeah,
I do. I have a YouTube page where you can check some of the storytelling. Most of it is in French, because here in Belgium we speak French, and so it's all done in French. But I do have some English-speaking ones, so you can go check it out. I have a website as well, who can explain. But that right now is also in French. But I'm looking for someone who could translate it. So if anybody would love to translate my website.
Again, viewers, she is overseas, so most of her clientele is in language, French and whatnot.
Yeah, but we can do it in English as well.
But yes, I think it's a fascinating thing you're doing. And Yza, you know as well as I do, we could go on and on and on. Last time we spoke almost for an hour or so.
Yeah.
So easy, and the time went by super fast. And you know what that means? I should really get you on my podcast at one point, where we could talk more freely about opinions. This is TV. This is for TV, so I gotta. Okay. Okay, so we've reached this part of the show where you can plug yourself. So, like I said, you mentioned YouTube. You had a website. Where can they find you on social media? Just mention everywhere and anywhere they can find you, so that this way they can get in contact with you, maybe work with you.
Yeah, okay, so for the English-speaking people, the English-speaking crowd, the best place would be Facebook, and I have a page there which is called Yza the Child Whisperer. It's a page, so it's not a personal profile. So you can find me there. There's a lot of articles in English. I try to balance French and English on that page. Where else? I am on Twitter, but I'm not very much on Twitter. So no, Facebook, the YouTube channel, and there are a couple of podcasts going on right now, here and there in Vancouver.
Tons of podcasts.
where I've been interviewed, and that's great. But I'm building this whole thing up as it goes, right? Mm-hmm. I am not someone who lasts for 15, 30 years. I'm someone who's on the go, and it changes, it goes from one thing to the other. But the thing with the kids are remaining like the thread who's getting me on my path. It's always something to do with children, so that they can grow, so that they can become who they are, to have a better
Ever evolving is an important aspect of human life. If we can't learn to evolve, then we'll be left in the dust, right? So yeah. I agree with that.
So I don't know if you have a place where you can put all this information if people want to contact me. Or
I do. It'll on TV. It'll flash across the screen. But when we upload it to YouTube, which will be a week from now, you'll find it on the screen and in the description box below. So you can just click on it and it'll take you there. Thank you, Yza. I really appreciate all the
Thank
time
you.
that you've given me. And if you have a cool person, whether it be overseas or not, or in Punjabi or Hindi, because we do have an a Desi CloseLook, which deals with all that. You can please go to www.closelook.ca. The information, the email, the numbers, all there. I would love to talk to you. Until then, get inspired. Thank you, Yza.